Here. Welcome to our sanctuary, and welcome to those of you who are watching all over the country from our YouTube channel. We're really glad you're here. And if anyone is here for the first time, or even if it's not the first time, but you would like to have a visitor's pack, we would love to have you pick one up. The ushers have green bags, and they are happy to share with you. This is the place where we know that we can change your mind by helping you change your thinking. That is the way that our teaching works, and we're glad you're here. So let us welcome our first song today, our congregational song, and let us rise as we open wide and sing loud.
Let us rise. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to everyone out there watching in video, and we welcome you, and here we go. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm dancing and singing with my mind stayed on spirit. I'm dancing and singing with my mind. Are you dancing? Stayed on spirit. I'm dancing and singing with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Now there ain't no harm to keep your mind on stayed on spirit. There ain't no harm to keep your mind on stayed on spirit. There ain't no harm to keep your mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Now I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Yes, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Excellent, thank you.
What a way to wake up, to be stayed on spirit. So as we come into this moment on spirit, on the wings of music, knowing that spirit is on my mind, I take a breath. I take a conscious breath because it's in that space of time where I breathe and I exhale all of the busyness that settles into my thinking, and I just let it go. And I allow spirit to fill all the spaces. And to know that that full presence of the power, the presence, the grace, the omnipotence, the divine, to fill in for me. And I keep my mind there so that it's familiar to me. And in moments throughout my day, I'm able to return to that feeling that I know so well when I wake up, stayed on spirit. I am grateful to know that this power, this presence, comes through for me at any time when I awaken to it. And I know as I'm opening my mind, my heart, my ears, my body to everything that unfolds in this beautiful service, that I am ready and I am saying, let it be and let it be. Thank you, Spirit. It is good and very good. And so it is. And so now I am going to come up Katie Frankel, who's going to share with us a lot of goings on.
Thanks, Reverend
Yay,
Catherine.
Katie.
Good morning to my CSL family here in the sanctuary.
Good morning.
Hey, everybody. Looking good. Y'all are looking good today. And hi to folks on the YouTube channel. Today, our speaker is Reverend Catherine McKinney. And afterward, I'd like y'all to stay just a little bit longer because we have hospitality in Richelieu after the service. And Sisters Club is also today at 12:30 in Richelieu Hall. See your program for details. It's this red graphic right here. And coincidentally, Donna is wearing red today, so she matches her own promotional graphic. You guys, it's back to school time in our area, and we're collecting school supplies and gifts for Rainbow School Supplies. Maureen is here to accept those gifts today, and all the funds go to Rainbow School Supplies, which supports women's shelters in the area. The recorded discovery class of August 7th is now available. Email the office for a link to the video. Check the front desk for details. This is important because New Member Sunday is October 9th. Speak with Reverend Mary in the foyer to sign up for New Member Sunday. Our annual meeting is October 16th, and active members will be attending that meeting. Here's what's happening this week, because stuff is happening this week, next week. We've always got items going on, not just on Sundays. Reverend Kathy's book reading is Tuesday, September 13th at 10. The book is Giving God a Good Time by Dr. Pat Campbell. Again, check the program for more details. Yoga class on Tuesday, September 13th in Richelieu at 11. Got to bring your mat, but the cost is only $10. Another book reading. People are reading here, all right? Not just on social media. We read here. The book is, the event is Wednesday, September 14th at 9:45. And the book is called Learn to Live by Irvin Seal. It's a new thought interpretation of the parables of Jesus. Email the office and you'll get a Zoom link to that book reading. Our Wednesday morning service is September 14th at 11. Same deal here in the sanctuary, but also on YouTube. And Reverend Mary Morgan is the speaker this Wednesday. The Labyrinth is Thursday, September 15th from 5 to 7. We are blessed to have this amazing portable labyrinth and to have Reverend Kathy in attendance. It's like a celebrity event doing a meditation. See your program for more details, as well as a display in the foyer, right? So the labyrinth is about shedding the old to make room for the new. Many of us could use that approach to our weight during COVID, right? Shedding the old to make room for the new. But this is more about clearing out your spiritual baggage to become in union with what's these new amazing opportunities. And Ruth and Jane and everyone who puts on that labyrinth does an incredible job. Looking ahead to next week on Sunday, Reverend Mary is the speaker. The men's group meets in the foyer Monday, September 19th. Mark Ruth is here. If you have any questions about the men's group, please see Mark. Raise your hand after the service. Thank you. And there's something cool going on Wednesday, September 21st. This is a CSL film that's going to be streamed nationwide, maybe even globally at 4 o'clock. The film is about gratitude, and we're going to be watching that film that proves to be a beautiful expression of life. It's an experience that we'll have in community here with new thought centers around the United States. The doors will open at 3:45. There's yet another class, Revealing Wholeness, that begins October 8th. This class is an exploration of practical and healing applications of science of mind principles for everyday living. How can we integrate science into our spiritual lives? There's a flyer about this class in the foyer. We'd also like to take this moment to remind you that there are several ways that you can donate. We appreciate your presence today, and we thank you so much for your messages and financial donations to our center. A reminder, if you're stuck during the week, you can dial a prayer, 310-540-5242, 540-5242. New prayers are posted every Wednesday. And now, I'm really excited to welcome singer Andrea Lane and Billy here with us today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good morning. Love is but a song we sing, fear's the way we die. You can make the mountains ring or make the angels cry. Though the dove is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, we will surely pass. When the one who left us here, we return to at last. We are but a moment's sunlight, fading into the grass. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. If you hear the song I sing, you'll understand. You hold the key to love and fear. It's there in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Come on, people, now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try and love one another right now. Right now. Right now.
Thank you, Andrea. Lovely, truly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Reverend Catherine is speaking today, and her topic is the mind of work. And typically in our culture, spirituality is in one corner of our lives, and work is in another that is completely different. Our work is full of focus on productivity and accomplishment. At work, we sometimes can feel besieged with data, maybe overwhelmed with the volume that must be done, or we might be working with difficult people. All of these can leave us with a feeling of feeling separate with the divine. Ernest Holmes said on page 52 of the Science of Mind text that spirit and the law flow through us because it flows through everything. And that is how it manifests through us, regardless of whether or not we're aware of it. The key is consciously connecting with spirit, even in the workplace, where we spend so very much of our day. Our work is what we in Science of Mind sometimes call creative expression. And if we see it as that, it can actually become fulfilling. Science of Mind principles pair perfectly with what we do in our livelihood. We know that we are creating due to what we are thinking, so we can actively think that the highest good is coming through everything we do. And I was doing some research this week on work and spirituality, and I came upon some really useful, practical ideas. So some people remind themselves about spirit and God in their lives throughout the day, maybe by setting a little reminder on their phones or on their computer. I had a personal kind of practice where I would close the door in the morning and ask for good to only come through the office in that day, and then again close the door at lunch and spend a little of that time meditating, and it proved to be so very refreshing for the rest of the day. So we can also remind ourselves that spirit is flowing through everyone else that we meet, and it can affect our relationships with our coworkers and with our clients. They can actually become harmonious as a result. Even if a coworker is difficult, what can we do? We can look at them with compassion. We can see them as on a spiritual path, just like everyone else is, whether they're aware of that or not. So it can move us past feeling anxiety and difficulty. We can see our work also, another idea is seeing it as altruism. We can use it to share good with our immediate world, and a deeper way to do that is to see each task as part of a meditation. We can enlist spirit to be active within us and address each task, working calmly and being grounded, and working with concentration and becoming absorbed in the work will allow it to feel and to become a meditation for us. So what we do in our larger life, of course, has a direct impact on our work. And so setting daily time aside for our spiritual practices, setting weekly time, like today, for our spiritual practices creates within us a sense of purpose and meaning that we can take back into the workplace. And whenever we are allowing spirit to come through us, it makes our lives more rich and rewarding, certainly. So please affirm with me, I connect with spirit throughout my day. Every day and always. And so it is. Thank you, thank you.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Be careful what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes peacefulness and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer.
Take charge of what you're saying. Every thought becomes a prayer. I think that if we could remember that throughout our day, as Bernice was suggesting, can any of us imagine how much better everything could be? This has been a momentous week. Momentous in many ways. Parts of this week, well, sometimes I think of my life as like a drama, only this week it was a bit of a comedy, and the comedy was called The Man Who Came to Dinner. I don't know if you know that comedy. It's a story of a curmudgeon of a man who broke his leg just before the play starts, and he is barking and he's mean and cantankerous throughout the play. And I feel like the man who came to dinner was the weather. The weather has been a topic in my life all week. It's like a character in my drama. I spent far too much time talking about it. Do you know how hot it is? Have you seen that humidity? What time is the flex alert? Do we have to? All week long. I am so glad that that comedy is over. I am so grateful. Yes. But of course, today is 9/11. I have wanted the flag to be here today in honor of that event. It was a day that our country was deliberately attacked, and yet there were things that happened that day that we can honor. Yes, we honor the lives of people who went to work that day, planning to go home. But we honor the lives of all of those servants, those workers, those people who showed up with the highest consciousness of what they had to be and to do in order to serve those who needed their help in body and in soul. So I honor those people. And yet, I know that there was a reaction at that time from all of us that didn't necessarily show our best selves. We tended, in our pain and in our anger, to resort to tribalism, I would say. We come over with these people and point to those who are the others, and we are angry. And what I know is that in Science of Mind teaching, we teach the first principle, which is oneness, that there is one power, there's one presence, there's one consciousness. The second principle is unity. There's one creation, and we're all in it. And in that ideal, that idea, the absolute that Ernest Holmes talks about, there is only one. And it was very hard at that time. And yet, there were people who were able to do that, but it was divisive and it was a difficult time. So by putting the flag up today, we're simply honoring the best of ourselves in that time. That's what I'm honoring. In Science of Mind, we know that the absolutes are that we are whole, we are perfect, and we are complete all the time. And even when we don't feel that way, even when we may have hurts and wants, we know that the truth is, as Ernest Holmes said, that is what we are. So the flag itself is a little like that. There's an ideal that this flag stands for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we meet that ideal all the time? No, we don't. But that doesn't mean that it isn't the ideal. that this country was founded on. And it's a consciousness. It's a consciousness that we bring. And Bernice was talking about that. She's talking about staying in that mind, that consciousness of spirit, of unity, of oneness, of reminding ourselves who we really are so that we can be the best of ourselves. So that segues nicely in what I want to talk about today, which is essentially the mind of work, the consciousness of work. And consciousness is our mental awareness. If you look it up in the little book that's How to Speak Science of Mind, that's the first thing it says, mental awareness. What is our mental awareness? Well, what I know in my own recent experience is that my mind has been on this. Last week we talked about work and doing good work and finding ways to bring that goodness of ourselves into the workplace. But I've been thinking all along about what is it about the consciousness of that enables us to be the best of ourselves. And so I had this mental awareness of this as a topic, and I was led to read things that were happening going back for more than a decade that I didn't even know about. And it got me excited. And it's interesting that a number of these movements started right after 9/11, in the couple of years following. I read about this man who found himself in the aisle of a grocery store, and he's looking at cereal boxes, and he's in angst, really, because he's wondering, if I buy this cheaper brand and I save that much money over a year's time of this other brand, would that money that I save, that I can donate, be enough to save a man's life? He was about 22 years old when he's doing this. And he had already spent a number of years trying to figure out how he could do things, how he could spend what money he had, how to live in such a way in order to bring about greater good. And he's thinking, should I be a teacher so that I could teach people? Should I go into politics, which I don't want to do, and try to affect policies in order to make things better? Should I move to a different city? And he had himself in knots at times, trying to, very much of his life, figure out how I can bring greater good to the most people. Well, as it turns out, this man wasn't working in isolation. There was a group in the early aughts in San Francisco. It was academics, some philosophers, some students who were eager to be altruistic, were trying to find a way to maximize whatever they had to give to make it go farther. And this wasn't about the amount. They weren't fundraising. It wasn't anything like that. It really was about consciousness. It was about that consciousness of making things better and putting their energy into that, even if they didn't define it that way. When I read about what they were doing, that is the way I read it. And so there was a group of people, and they're global. They're not just here in the United States. The man who was quandering over the cereal is a Scottish philosopher, and he went to Oxford, and he did a lot of work. He volunteered in a lot of places before he ever got to that cereal aisle, trying to figure out what was the best thing to do. Many of the others started early in their lives to find ways to do good. This one young man, 11 years old, and he was concerned about climate change. So he organized his school. He did a grid, figured out how that people could carpool, use a lot less cars to get to school to make a difference. He was 11. And there was another young man who, when he was 16, was in high school, and he figured out, what is the carbon footprint of this high school? he did. He said, how can I find a way to make a suggestion that we could improve it? He did, and the school did. There was a 13-year-old girl in Virginia who was giving away her allowance at age 13 to causes that she supported because she felt that they needed and could make a difference with the money that she had. One of the most impressive was a man before his senior year at Stanford offered up a kidney to a stranger who needed it. These are people who started at a very young age, being able to give what they had because they thought it was important. And I was incredibly impressed by the fervor with which they did this. And the idea that his name is McCaskill, who is the young man with the cereal, William McCaskill, he co-founded a movement, it's called, and it's called Efficient Altruism, EA. And that sort of says exactly what they're trying to do, is to find a better way to do good, to do work in order that I get the greatest good out of what I'm doing. And this is work for people who do work in all kinds of walks of life, have different jobs. Many people have signed on to this, signed on to pledges to give 10% of whatever they have to find a way to make something better. So William McCaskill's group, among other things, researches data, researches organizations, and he looks for all the reasons why giving the money this way will help someone else. These are not their personal charities. None of this is personal. This is simply their way of trying to help more and more people find a way to do more good with what you have. Now, along the way, William McCaskill also learned that he needed more balance in his life. He had so much angst, about the cereal and that money, but that carried over into other parts of his life. He was out of balance, and he had to at least take a step back and recognize that he needed to do other things, and then brought a fresher version of himself to what he was doing. And he continues to do that work today. He doesn't even claim to have all the answers. He just knows that they're worthy questions. And the things that they want to solve globally, and it's a big reach, but it has to do with income equality, it has to do with climate change, it has to do with issues that are global in reach as well as local. Food insecurity is another one. And I know that locally, during this past time we've been through, Bob and I responded to that need for food. And so one of our charities, besides our center, were the food banks that give food to people who need it. So I think this urge to find ways to give what you have, to share what you're doing is important. But I actually think that the most important aspect of it is the consciousness that you give to that. It's the fact that you support it, and you think about it, and it's part of that mental awareness that you carry with you, and those opportunities come to you. And when they come to you, you'll know whether this is the thing that I want to support. And you won't notice all of them, and the ones that don't come to you are probably the ones that you don't need to follow. And so the idea that consciousness, this mental awareness, which is all around us, my consciousness, as the way I've understood it, walks with me. When I go, my consciousness walks with me, whatever that is. Now, we also recognize that there are times when our consciousness has multiple fronts. that don't seem so momentous. I know, have you ever bought a car and then noticed how many other cars like it were on the road? Because your mind is on that car. You've shopped for it, you've gotten it, you have it, and there's one, there's one, there's one. That's consciousness too. And when your consciousness shifts to some idea, I know that when my daughter was pregnant with my granddaughter, I saw all kinds of things related to that, and I was interested in them because that was where my consciousness was. So we carry a lot of things around in our awareness. The science tells us that we are inundated with billions of sensations every day. Well, obviously, we're not seeing all of them. And if we go into a room, 100 of us, and have 100 sensations, let's assume they're equal in sensation, we're going to see different things. We may overlap some, but we're going to focus on different things because the consciousness, the mind, the unique expression that I am, that you are, attracts that very idea of how my mental awareness expresses. My individualized expression of God expresses in so many different ways, and sometimes it's not always easy for me or for all to recognize that someone else sees it differently, which is why we have to start with that oneness as well as unity, so that we could allow other people at work, in our play, in our spiritual life, to bring to their life what is important to them and honor that. We have every space to step into the idea of what I believe and be respectful in the process. That's incredibly important, that each of us is able to be and live from that viewpoint that is honorable to ourselves as well as to that higher cause. I believe that there's one power and there's one presence and there's one spirit as well as one creation. And I do believe that I share this creation in a unique way with all the individual expressions of God. And do I forget sometimes? I think I do. But I also know I have called on the grace of God to gently remind me when I step out of that circle so that I can be nudged back in. That is my prayer. And it is my prayer every day to do that because that's what we're required if we're going to live this full life and make a contribution in whatever work we do. And work, I was defining last week, is the activity that uses your strength or your faculties in order to do or produce something. That's what work is. And work is something every one of us do. Some of us have jobs, some of us are retired from jobs, some of us do other things, but we all work in that sense. We live lives of fullness, and we can enthusiastically do that and also remember what we're bringing to this. Can I do this in such a way that brings greater good to everyone? And I get to define for myself what that is like. I do believe in the power of having an idea that is something that is a good idea and holding on to the consciousness. It was demonstrated in a surprising way to me within the last couple of years, really more in the last year, I guess. In the early aughts, again, this was a time that like 2003 or 4, at the board level, we spent a great deal of time trying to figure out how this center could build a camp that teens all over the country could go to. We had this idea that we could do it. We looked at land. Some land became available, and we talked about that, and there was an energy about that. I personally have been committed to the growth of youth in our movement since before that time, so I was on board for that. That was in my consciousness. Well, that didn't develop. It did not work out. The plan that we had wasn't feasible, financially or otherwise. But fast forward to a couple of years ago, there's a man who owns the camp in Cedar Ridge, decided he was done. He was going to move on to something else, and he gave first right of refusal of this camp to CSL, to big CSL. And they decided to buy it and invited all of us to contribute to that. I gave money to that because that was something that was important to me. They needed millions. I didn't have a spare million or two, but I gave to it. And what I'm giving to it is my consciousness that I have held on to all of these years by supporting teens, by going to teen camp, by understanding how much teens benefit from that. And we have that camp. And we went to it this summer in July. It felt like the culmination of a dream. And it's consciousness. That's what I believe. I'm not the only one that had this idea. I was in concert with many people. But see, that, to me, is what consciousness does. Is it important to you? Is there a thing that's important to you that you want to be part of, that you say yes to? How much you share is up to you. But it is worth studying, learning, opening, and meditating to find what that is. Now, I believe that when you open your mind, Ernest Holmes says it all begins with spirit. All of creation begins with spirit, and it moves through us, and that inspiration that is uniquely mine, it's uniquely yours, invites you which way to go. And I truly do want to stand for things that are done that are for the greater good for all. I want to stand on the side of that. And so that is in my consciousness. And so I am sure that I am brought to, inspired, open to ways to actually get that done. And I know that everyone in this room who has that desire can be there too. I do believe that. That's what we teach. There is a power for good in the universe, and I can use it. And I do use it. And I use it every day, and I want to use it consciously for everyone. So in closing, I want you to think about what it is in your consciousness with regard to how you want to be in the world and how you want to see the world to be. They're big questions. And each of us doesn't necessarily decide the big questions. We decide our part in the big question. What is it that we can do? What can I do that adds to the greater good of all concerned? I know that answer is divine, and it's uniquely yours. And so I know that as we come together, we share the goodness and the desire for goodness that we have. I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. I know the power and presence of Spirit is with me now. I feel the presence of Spirit within me and with all creation. I am grateful that the mind of God that I use is ever present in my own consciousness and awareness. And so I simply agree and say, And so it is. So it is. The ushers are coming down for their donation. And I want to share with you that really is an expression of someone's consciousness, as it turns out. She writes, "Every day I begin my day with knowing prosperity, success, and happiness. I believe in beginning every day of my life with joy. I have had the happy occurrence to be gifted a wonderful adventure. I'm just being treated. I know this teaching works, but I still feel amazed at the real thing when it happens to me. I have had additional gifts along the way that make everything even sweeter. I'm so grateful because I know I can have even more gifts." And she says, "And so it is." It's wonderful. It is a wonderful story. So let us share in the blessing of our gifts. Divine love consecrates my gift. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And so it is.
Awesome. You're awesome. Yeah. How you doing? Hey. I used to think that God was a big guy way up in the sky. Now I know that God is within us. She's in you and I. Now every time I feel like I'm shaking, I turn to the one, the infinite God is within us, created the sun. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. Now it's time to feel good. Hey. I used to think that God was a mean guy way up in the sky, punishing folks if they messed up or ate too much pie. Now I know that God is within us. She's in everyone. The infinite God that created the stars and the sun. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. I'm walking on sunshine. Wow. Now it's time to feel good. Hey. Now it's time to feel good. Hey. Go ahead now. Yeah. I feel alive, I feel alive, I feel a love that's really real. I feel alive, I feel alive, I feel alive. Walking on sunshine, baby, wow. Walking on sunshine, baby, sing it with me. I'm walking on sunshine, wow. I'm walking on sunshine, wow. I'm walking on sunshine, wow. Now it's time to feel good. I I feel good. Do you? Time to feel good. Hey, now it's time to feel good.
To Andy and Billy and to Reverend Mary for our wonderful music today. Thank you. A couple of things before we go to our blessing. Number one, I was talking about the weather and the topic and being in the drama of my life. But the really cool thing, which I think is worth mentioning, is that we've had the hottest time California has ever had, and we avoided the rolling blackouts. And we did that. We did that because of that cooperation. And at one point, they were on the verge of calling it, and they sent out this alert, and immediately the power use dropped. This is the kind of consciousness that I want to celebrate, and I'm grateful that it happened and that we can feel good about it. I also want to reiterate a couple of things in announcements. Reverend Mary is going to be outside with a new member clipboard that is there for those of you who want to become a new members, and you can listen to that discovery recording. You just need to get the link, and it makes it easy. I think the link is on a sheet of paper up at the desk, but it's so much easier to have it emailed to you, so you could just hit your thumb and get to it that way and watch the recording. And to know that on October the 9th, when we have New Member Sunday, Mr. Dave is going to be bringing us a wonderful breakfast on October the 9th, and we're going to have a great time in Richelieu Hall. So get in on that and allow us to celebrate you as a new member. Now, before we really close, I got to the wrong thing, and I will get that. You know, when I mess around with my thumbs, things happen. I have been sent a message from Dr. Moira, and you understand the other thing that was momentous this week, of course, was the passing of Queen Elizabeth II of Great Britain. Dr. Moira, who of course is Irish, but lived in London for a very long time, and she has an emotional reaction to this passing, and she wants to share. God bless the Queen in her new and most significant role now. I have always admired Queen Elizabeth II. Now she gets to take a deep breath, relax, release, and let go. Her reign was long and memorable. In my opinion, she did a very good job with what she was given to deal with. Now she can relax and trust those who are now taking the monarchy into its next expression. I know that Queen Elizabeth II will be remembered with great respect and an understanding that she did the very best for her kingdom. During her reign there were very many challenging times, and she met them with queenly grace. So in gratitude to Her Royal Highness, I say for her, God bless and save the King. And Dr. Moira sends her love to every one of you as well. And so does. Thank you. So we are going to do the blessing now for the world, for ourselves, for everyone. The important thing is to do it meaningfully to me. I know divine love enfolds me. Divine light leads me. Divine life lives in me. Divine wisdom inspires me. Divine compassion expresses through me. And divine power protects me. All that I am is Spirit's life in expression. It is good and very good. With deep joy and generosity filling me, I go forward now in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for all. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health and wellness, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, with blessing and in deep gratitude, I know for all life. There is only God. There is only God. There is only God. Let's rise for the peace song, and all of our musicians join up here on the platform.